We got breaking news.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Wolchuk.
Yeah, we got, and this was reported. We got a couple of texts about this, but now it's verified. But Zack Martin's coming back, baby.
Yes!
Let's go. It's over. Cowboys All-Pro guard and team captain Zack Martin has reached an agreement on a rework deal. The new deal is going to pay him north of $18 million in each of the next 2 seasons. He was scheduled to be at $13.5 million this year, $14 next year, so he gets an additional $8.5 million plus. Both years also fully guaranteed. He's flying to Oxnard to rejoin the team.
Wow, how about that?
Hallelujah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zack Martin
thank goodness.
gets what Zack Martin wants, and he absolutely deserves
So there was a
every
$7 million difference, and he ends up getting $4.5 million. So
Good compromise.
I think instead of falling in the middle, he took an extra $1
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. I mean, we weren't really sure. Remember we were saying on some of the shows we were doing that, like, okay, can they meet him at 2.5? Can they meet him at 3?
Yeah.
They went all the way to 4 with it. So good for them, good for Zack. And, you know, I could say, though, the money, though, he did lose some money along the way. He's not going to get that money back. So
maybe that covers most of the fine.
Hopefully
Maybe that additional $1 million.
Yeah, that'll cover up what he lost.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever the case, I'm glad the Jones family has done the right thing here and given this team a chance to be great, because without Zack Martin on the team, that path to greatness was just a lot more blurry to find. Now that you have Zack Martin, now the only real big question mark is how healthy Tyron Smith stays. And, you know, as long as it's not a demon pass rusher like Micah Parsons, I think Tyron's going to be able to hold up and have a pretty good season ahead of him this year.
Had a chance, had a game. Always nice when we get a game to evaluate, to figure these things out. Thanks for everybody that hung out with us on the Cowboys pre- and post-game show. Really do appreciate the hard work that everybody does to get that together. And my co-host Eric and Zach do a hell of a job with that too. So thank you guys for being a part of that.
Our pleasure.
What some of my takeaways from the game this past weekend against the Jaguars? Did notice something. You know, I've always talked about the screen plays that they run, you know, or try to run, and how they're not timed out and what the problems are. But I saw a little creativity on a screen that they ran on the play to Rico Dowdle down near the red zone on right before half. And it was interesting because they ran what we call orbit motion, which they brought Turpin in motion from the right to the left, and he spun around Rico Dowdle and then went back. So you're going you're going right to left, back to right.
Yep.
And it kind of, you could watch the coverage go with him. Mm-hmm. And it was moving guys away from where they were trying to set the screen to the left.
Right.
Which was really, that's a creative way, you know, we're like, oh, well, hey, like to see more creativity. Here's a preseason game. And they're thinking, well, let's throw a screen down here in the red zone and see what happens. So they go a little orbit motion, and then they get the defenders to adjust, you know, with Turpin going the other way and then throw the ball. Now, the problem is, and this is where the screens kind of get murky for the Cowboys. The problems they've had, the ability that they can't get the guys out in front.
Murky's a bad thing?
Murky, not clean.
Okay.
You know, kind of dirty.
They were killing it, maybe.
Yeah, not a murky. Murky. Good point. But you know, the thing about getting guys out in front of the screens have been a problem. You know, and we've seen in camp where they're using Tyron Smith and getting him to the outside. He seems the one that has that athletic ability to be able to make that happen. But in this particular thing, the problem they had was Farniak. When you run a screen, it's kick, lead, peel. They got Farniak out on the kick, but he didn't kick. He went back up inside. So ultimately what happened is his guy that they need to kick
ended up making the
play. So you're sitting there, okay, why don't the Cowboys run screens? Why can't they? You know, it's about timing, it's about execution. But that's the basic rules when you run screens. Kick, lead, up inside, and then the peel back. They got everything but the kick, and ultimately the kick got the tackle.
Do you think that might have influenced the news with Zack Martin today? Like, guys, we can't.
It's just something I noticed, you know. And I'm one of these guys that like wants them to run more screens, and then I'm asking myself, why don't they run more screens? And then I'm like, okay, I get it. They can't execute, but it was nice to see him at least have a couple of those. I just wanted to point that out as something that I saw that I hope that they can kind of clean up, because they would have had a big play on the screen if in fact that they would have got the kick block. All right, I mentioned the offensive line. Let me power rank the guys that started for you. I thought, well, let's go Farniak, even though he had that miss. Hoffman, Richards, Ball. Those were the 5 guys. That's how I would rank them of how they played in that football game.
Richards did not impress you.
Not like I thought. And I love Awesome Richards. He's one of my guys. I've talked about him in the draft. If you listen to me on the draft show or on 105.3 The Fan like you are, or the Love of the Star, whatever, I always talk about Awesome Richards. Mm-hmm. But as far as the 5 guys that started, well, let's go Farniak, Hoffman, Richards, Ball. That's how I saw them, how they played. 1 to 5 right there. So that's kind of just if you were curious about how I had those guys ranked.
And just so, just for some clarification as well, Pro Football Focus had Farniak and Brock Hoffman as 2 of their top 5 highest graded offensive players for the Cowboys in the game.
Yeah. So that was, and it's good. I mean, I'm glad that they had those guys that way. That's fine. If you look for the backup guys that played, and these guys I feel like need to have more of an opportunity. I feel like Earl Bostic needs more opportunity. He played at left tackle for you, number 64. TJ Bass, number 66, playing at right guard for you. And I feel like that those guys need more of an opportunity. If, I'm gonna sit there and say, okay, for Ball, for Farniak, those guys, I know I had him second ranked, but I'm going to go ahead and say, those guys deserve chances. And the thing I didn't know, and Zach, did you watch Bostic much at Kansas? Did you do his film at all?
I did watch him at Kansas, and to me, I wondered, I thought athletically he did show a lot of good signs there.
Yeah.
But, I could understand why he wasn't taken really, really highly. He wasn't a guy. I had an undrafted grade on him.
Okay. Well, but you watch him play in this game, and I'm going to be honest with you guys out there, like I believe I always am. At camp, you don't notice these guys. You don't notice Bostic. You don't know. I mean, you notice them when they make mistakes.
Yeah.
Or somebody just goes running by somebody. When it was 2s versus 2s, fine. 3s versus 3s, fine and all that. But, if these guys are playing well for the 3s, let's see some more action against 2s then.
Sure.
Let's see. The thing about Bostic I really, really like is his ability to get away from the line. He keeps his head back. He's a long guy. He can extend. He keeps wide. I really liked what he was able to do in this game. TJ Bass inside looked a lot more powerful than any of the other guards that as I was watching these guys play. And I'm thinking, okay, TJ Bass now, maybe a gamer, maybe deserves more of an opportunity to play with your.
I'm
with
so
your
with you. I mean, I was wondering, why are you giving Ball all this run? Give TJ Bass those snaps. I also think Richards kicking inside to guard, kind of like that.
Yeah, he was much better at guard than
I thought so too.
Stuff. Okay, I mentioned on the defensive side the Mazi Smith stuff. When you watch Mazi on tape, you're going to see some good, and you're going to see some technique issues that he's going to have. And a lot of it, I think he plays a lot because of the conditioning. I think they're like, listen, let's get this young guy out there. Let's give him an opportunity. But there's times where you could see the power. You could see him splitting the double teams, especially when they got down on the goal line, when they got down inside the 5-yard line. That's when you kind of saw Mazi Smith come to life, where you need him to be. Now, the one really bad rep he had, he was playing a head-up nose on the quarterback sneak and got driven like 3 yards off the ball. He's got to anchor down in there better. But overall, though, there was some really positive things about Mazi Smith playing double teams, playing single blocks. Some of his wider technique stuff, when instead of playing the 1, playing the 3, playing a little wider, he was able to make some more plays that way. So, hats off to him the way he played. I felt like he did just fine. We mentioned the linebackers. All those linebackers played well. I do have some issues with Jabril Cox. And I feel like that Jabril Cox, I'm hopeful now that, and we'll see what happens with Malik Jefferson in the foot. I'm hopeful that Jabril Cox will get more work, but Jabril Cox looked unsure in this football game.
I thought Devin Harper looked better.
Yeah, he was. When you watched him play, there was times where he was a tick slow in reacting, and all the other linebackers are running to the ball and stuff. Jabril Cox is a guy you're trying to figure out, does he deserve a spot on this roster? probably his best play was the blitz that he had on fourth down, where he was able to create pressure and then force the ball out early. They were able to get off the field. Other than that, I felt like that it was kind of just a ho-hum game for him.
Yeah.
As far as the way he was reading, maybe not ho-hum, maybe below what he needs to be. And that can't happen for him trying to make this team. I mentioned this Isaiah Land, from Florida A&M. He's the one guy to me, when you watch them in the second half when they started putting in the real young guys, he was the one guy in this game that actually showed me that he's got some of that edge ability, his ability to get off the football, ability to be disruptive. Sideline to sideline we talk about, but pass rush, you could tell that he's got some juice to his game. You could see that he's able to break these blockers down. I'd like to see him get more of an opportunity. I'd like to see Josh Butler, the corner, number 40, get some more opportunity as well. Yeah, as far as the corners go, they picked on some of these other corners, throughout the game, and I would like to see Butler. Butler was the one guy that looked comfortable when they put him in. He looked comfortable in coverage and being around the ball, running with his guy, not the separation and all that. So those are some guys that I felt like that showed up in this football game. The young guys that the opportunity, the offensive linemen that I mentioned, and then some of these defensive players like Land, like Butler, and again, Jabril Cox, you need to kind of elevate your game a little bit.
Thank you very much. There it is, Bryan Broaddus in Krusty's Corner every afternoon at 2:40 with a real good look at what happened in that preseason game, the winners and losers. Zack Martin, 3-word tweet from 6 minutes ago. Back to work.
Let's go.
Yeah, he is on his way back to Oxnard, California. We had the breaking news about 30 minutes ago. Extension. The next 2 years are guaranteed, and he gets an additional $8.5 million.